Today we're in rural Somerset. Only yesterday I was on the cast house floor of the blast furnaces in Port Talbot, and unbelievably these two places have something in common. Behind me is a barn which is being reclad, and it's being reclad in some of our steel products that originated in Port Talbot, made in Shotton, and are now being used here in Somerset. Delighted to have come down to this project which TV legend in my lifetime, Sarah Beeny, is owning and managing and running. Sarah, brilliant to come here today and to meet you and see the project. Tell us a bit about this. No ordinary barn, is it?
No, well, first it's really big. It's probably not big compared to some of the barns you have created, but it is big for me. It's enormous. And I guess this project, it was an existing barn, and it was covered in asbestos cladding that had a lot of holes in, and so it was a barn where the structure was there, but it needed recladding. And I thought, right, if we're going to reclad it, let's try and use as much as we can of what's there. But I do feel that if you're going to do any building work, you should use the materials, which means that it has a very long life, because whatever building you build, however you build it, it uses the Earth's resources. So if you're going to use the Earth's resources, build it once and build it to last, and this will be good for another 200 years, I reckon.
Well, we hope so, and we'll maybe come on to the choice of materials and stuff. But this isn't a personal project. It's not your own personal barn to keep cows in. There's something much greater to it than that, isn't there?
There is. So this barn is, this was a dairy farm, and now it isn't. Then we used the barn to keep hay loosely dry-ish, but now it's going to be a building which we aim to have it as a film studio and TV studio and recording studio, and it'll be used by the local community, so that they can. I'd like to give opportunity for young people in the area to have things to do in the area that mean that they don't need to leave, and so I feel that any kind of alternative commercial opportunity that you can do in the countryside, where you can give opportunity and link in with local schools and local courses, so that they can come and see something being done as it's happening. So whilst we'll have people filming here, we'll also be able to use local schools and local colleges, and they'll be able to do work experience here. They may be able to use it themselves to make their own films. They can use it to record their own music, and we can also use it as a community space. So we're having a tea dance here in 4 weeks' time, which is for elderly and isolated people.
Wow, sounds like a fantastic project. But if we go on to the construction of the barn itself, we went to a construction summit earlier this year, and all the talk there was about sustainable building, modern methods of construction, and almost saying recycling is a dirty word, because the construction industry should much more focus on reuse, repurpose. And I guess that's what you're doing here, because that frame's original, isn't it? Yep,
that's the original frame. It was in good order. It's been added to by our great contractors. So they looked at it, and we've got an engineer who looked at it. Bits of it have been added to make it a little bit sturdier, but it's the original frame, so we're reusing that. We've taken away the stuff that isn't so good, and then we're putting this really fantastic steel cladding on the outside, which is insulated and it's warm, so we've got a solid thermal mass with no cold bridging, so anything we do make in terms of heat on the inside will stay inside. So that's why we chose it.
Yeah, and I was going to come on to the material, because obviously we're very proud to have our steel in buildings such as this and all others around the world, but you had a choice, I guess. This could have been brick, it could have been breeze blocks, it could have been timber, but you chose steel. Why was that?
Well, it's British steel, so I love that. It's made in the UK, and if we can possibly do that, I think it's good for our economy, but it's also good for its carbon impact as well. So that's a good reason for using it. I hadn't used it before. That was another reason I wanted to find out about it. And the more I found out about it, the more I thought, oh, this is really, really brilliant. If I found out about it and thought it was a bit rubbish, we wouldn't have used it. So I like the fact its thermal qualities are amazing. It looks beautiful, I think. And I think it's made in the UK. So there's lots of reasons.
Yeah.
And I wanted it to look like a barn still.
Yeah. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's the sort of material that isn't, in this country at least, commonly used on sort of domestic dwellings, although that's growing. Can you see, with all of the arguments you've laid out, can you see that sort of domestic house builders and homeowners going, actually, I should be considering steel as a cladding material for my roof and my dormers or my walls?
I definitely would now, having used it, really consider it for domestic use. I really love the fact that we're renting it from you effectively. I think that's brilliant. So at the end of its life, you take it back and recycle it and make it back into more steel. I think that's absolutely fantastic, to take responsibility for the products you make at the end of life. Although I'm planning on it being there for 200 years, so it'll be our ancestors dealing with it.
Yeah.
But you have to think about end of life with all building materials, and I feel very strongly that we need good thermal mass, no cold bridging, but also maintenance free. That's really important, because we haven't got the money and the time to maintain, and if it needs lots of maintenance, it won't be maintained, and therefore it will start to decay. And so this is a very good maintenance free solution, which is why I think it's actually a really brilliant material for any building. Yeah,
and it looks like it's going up quickly. I'm going to leave you for a moment, Sarah, because I want to bring in Matt Teague. So Matt's from Building Systems within Tata Steel UK. Matt, Sarah has done a great job of selling your products for you there, hasn't she? Talking about all the great benefits. Tell us a bit more about this product, because we can see it here in a greeny grey colour, and you can see the insulation within it. But what are the properties that makes this an ideal material?
This is Trisomet. This is our product. I guess this is used probably mostly on industrial buildings and warehousing and that sort of thing. It's a composite panel, which means that the insulation is actually part of the panel when it's manufactured. So this whole thing is 2 sheets of steel, which is then we push this foam into the middle of it, and then the foam expands. This is one of the thickest panels we do as well. This is 135 millimetres of insulation. So this gives a very good U value through the building. It's the same on the roof as well. So there's a nice warm frame here. And as it's been mentioned, this paint here is, the paint finish is guaranteed for 40 years. In this location. So it is virtually maintenance free. We don't require there to be any sort of additional maintenance on the building at all in order to maintain that 40-year guarantee on the colour.
And anyone who knows anything about steel, well, we were talking earlier about the fact this will already have about 20% recycled content because of how steel is made in Port Talbot, and potentially more in the future. But Sarah then talked about this whole idea of leasing materials. Now, this is quite revolutionary, I would say, in the materials business. Tell us a bit more how that's going to work for Tata Steel.
Well, this is quite new, and this is probably the first project we've done it on properly in the UK. The idea behind it is that as we transition, as we decarbonise and we become more reliant on scrap steel, we're going to need reliable sources of steel. And knowing where it is as well. So knowing that you've got an asset in the field that will come back eventually, that you can then reuse in your electric arc furnaces, is really important. So that's part of the idea behind it. The other part of the idea behind it is that there are other issues that need to be dealt with this sort of product, such as the insulation. So if we can find a way to properly recycle that in the future, that will become part of the picture as well. But very much it's about beginning to think about circularity in the business, and as was said before, taking responsibility for our products in the long term.
And this material I think is called Trisomet, and you can't quite see, but we'll get some shots of it later. But it's on the roof as well as the wall, and there'll be some other systems. But I understand there's the potential to put another product of ours in this barn. Tell us a bit about that.
Comfloor. So Comfloor is our structural deck. Composite deck for floors, and it is basically a trapezoidal sheet of galvanised steel, which you then pour concrete on top. And we'll probably get some film of it later on, but that's for the area at the end, which is the dressing rooms and recording studios and what have you, and that will go on the top as part of the mezzanine sort of level. But that's the next product to sort of come in here.
There's a lot behind it. You think it's just a barn, don't you? And there's a lot behind it. And Sarah's talked about the design of the building and the rationale behind it, and the community purpose of it, and the reasons for using steel. Matt's talked to us about the material itself and leasing it and the content and its properties. but someone's got to put this stuff up. And so, Rich, I'm going to bring you in. Richard from Reed Agri. So you're the contractor partner who's putting this material up. Tell me, what's the benefits of this Trisomet system?
So it's really quick and easy to install. We just have a machine and two blokes literally just fitting it up and then screwing it to the sheeting rails.
Yeah, and I guess there's an advantage in being able to get the roof up quickly, because once you've got the roof up you can put everything else in dry,
Yeah,
whereas maybe more traditional builds you have to kind of build from the bottom up. Is that true?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Yeah, so we were able to get the roof on, then we can start doing like the floor inside and things like that. And, yeah.
And how quickly does it go up?
It goes up pretty quickly. I mean, we'd get this side done in a week, this 48 metre side.
So I guess when you're looking at projects and people are sort of looking for you for recommendations of materials to use, I guess this is probably quite favourable to you as a contractor to say, we like working with this stuff. Would that be fair?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because I mean, the older systems where you have you put your single skin up first, then you put your insulation, then you put your outer skin on. That takes so much longer than putting this stuff up, which is just one sheet all in one go.
Yeah. Listen, thanks very much for that insight, Sarah. I'm going to finish back with you because I think you're going to feature this barn as part of a TV series or TV programme as well.
Yes.
What happens after that? Is there going to be more projects, and what's the potential to use steel in future stuff, do you think?
What's exciting about this particular project here, which we are featuring on our show, which is out next year, so that's called New Life in the Country, so we are showing this. I think what's really exciting about this particular product is it's really beautiful. I didn't expect it to be beautiful. I thought it was going to be a really big compromise visually, but it's not. I like the kind of gritty, slightly industrial, agricultural feel to it. The colours are brilliant. It lasts for a long time. But what's really exciting about it is if you had to build that wall and you built it out of block and then insulation and then clad it in, say, stone, or you built it in any form of internal wall and then clad it, I reckon that would be about 3 months' work. And doing that is about a week's work. So it's like 1 week versus 3 months. So that's just in terms of time. But of course, time is money. So you've got to pay people to do all of that. So the fitting is so much cheaper. And I understand the thermal qualities of this is the same as building a twin skin wall with insulation in the middle. So it has the same thermal qualities as what we'd call a normal house. It just goes up about 12 times quicker. So that speaks for itself a little, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, listen, Sarah, thanks ever so much for inviting us down and letting us in and letting us see this project as it develops. And like I said earlier, you must come to Talbot and see where it started its life, and come to visit the blast furnaces and see where steel is made and how it's made.
Well, I'm definitely going to do that. I'm really excited. I'm so excited that anyone would want to go see steel being made.
So we should definitely do that. Isn't it great to get out of the steelworks and get into a project which is using our materials in a real life example, and hearing about the benefits from the people who are actually going to use this thing. So listen, Sarah, Matt, Rich, thanks very much for joining us today, and we'll be following it with real interest, and can't wait to see it on the telly.
Brilliant, thanks.
Thank you.